Another anchor that we can consider is a self-distributing or self-equalizing, as we used to say, anchor called the sliding X or the magic X. And so here we can take a sling, and it's most commonly going to be done with a shoulder length sling. I shouldn't say most commonly, but often. And here I'm just going to twist one of those loops that I've pulled down, and I can clip into it. Now the advantage of this anchor is it does distribute the load pretty effectively as the climber moves side to side or the load moves side to side. Now when you actually start to measure this, we actually find that because of the friction in here between the carabiner and the material, that it actually doesn't do a great job of distributing the load, but it certainly does a much better job than the self-distributing anchor that we looked at prior. Now, so that's one advantage to it. We don't have a shelf though, so that's a con. We only have just a single master point. And another limitation here is that we don't have any redundancy. So here I've got a sling that I made for demonstration purposes where I've attached the two connections with just a piece of tape. So here now, this kind of shows the limitation here, that there's no redundancy. So if my climber is moving side to side, it might be distributing the load pretty well, but should maybe a sharp edge right here saw through that material, there's no redundancy, and you can see the sling just fails. So that was my failure point there, and I just had a piece of tape there connecting the two ends of the sling just to demonstrate that. Now you can help alleviate that if you so choose by making one sliding X with one sling and then just adding a second sling. So first I put that white and purple sling, now I'll put this yellow one, and I'll do the same thing, twist it, and now I'll clip into both. And now I've got some redundancy, so if one sling cuts, there is another sling in place, so I've added some redundancy there. But still, let's say this carabiner comes unclipped or something happens to this point, there's going to be a lot of extension. You can see how far the master point extends before it stops. So that is one limitation to it. We can try to help alleviate some of that concern by using load limiter knots or extension limiting knots. I'm going to use a double length sling here to demonstrate that. So here, again, this would be my sliding X. What I can do now is I can just add some knots. And it's just an overhand knot here. And another overhand knot on this side. So I have one knot in each leg of the anchor. Okay, and now I still make my twist down here. I want my load limiting knots pretty well down here because I can still get a lot of distribution side to side, but I really want these knots down here to minimize that extension should one leg of the anchor fail. So here you can see I've got a pretty minimal extension, although I have some. Now if you add the load limiting knots, you do perhaps get a little bit of redundancy because if this leg cuts, this other leg is still intact. But down here, you still have some redundancy, but it's perhaps a little bit still of more concern. So I would say the sliding X or the magic X certainly still has some applications, but it seems to have really gone out of vogue in recent years, and it's a knot that many climbers use more and more sparingly. And so it's important, if you're going to decide to use that magic X, sliding X, just to understand its limitations and what you can do to address those limitations if you decide to use it.